All right. Let's see. Should I put it there? What's up, guys? Hey. What's up, everyone? My name is Tim Stoddart. Welcome to SoberNation.com. It's been a long time since I did a live video. There's been some cool news and information that's been released in the last week, which touches home to me personally, and I think it's going to touch home to a lot of you guys as well. Philadelphia is on its way to becoming the first American city that has safe zone injection sites. You know, it needs to be clear. A lot of the headlines was like very catchy and sort of clickbaity about it becoming like a reality. There's still a long way to go with this. Philadelphia does not have any safe zone injection sites right now, but it's definitely a step closer. So I pulled up an article on NPR. I'll just go through some touch points with you guys because I want to know what you guys think about this and how you guys all feel about safe injection sites. So Philadelphia is a step closer to opening what could be the nation's first supervised site for safe drug injection, but turning the idea into a reality won't be easy. City officials gave the proposition the green light Tuesday. They were armed with feasible studies, harrowing overdose statistics, and the backing of key leaders, including the mayor and the newly elected district attorney. It's important to know and to put into context what heroin is doing to the city of Philadelphia. My family lives there. I've shared through video a few times with you guys that my father is a Philadelphia paramedic and my stepdad is a Philly firefighter. And the stories that they tell me and the stories that I hear from my friends and family that still live there, it's pretty serious. People die like really every day from heroin overdoses in Philly. So if there is a city where I think this could be something worth, you know, at least experimenting, it's definitely Philadelphia, especially some of the places in the northeast of Philly. There's a little neighborhood called Kensington, which is just getting completely destroyed. There are many people who are hesitant to go into treatment despite their addiction, and we don't want them to die. This is a quote from Dr. Thomas Farley, Philadelphia's health commissioner and co-chair of the city's opioid task force. So I guess that raises the question, right? Where is the line where you quote unquote buy somebody time? You keep them alive. You know that they're still going to use drugs, but you know that they're still going to shoot heroin, basically. But you keep them alive long enough that maybe that moment of clarity will click in for them. Personally, I think that is an idea worth trying because most people don't get sober their first try. But given a long enough time frame, basically everybody that continuously uses heroin dies. You don't see old heroin addicts. Let's just be realistic about that. So I think it's worth taking a shot to see what would happen if we give struggling addicts a place to safely, with clean needles, come to a place where if something happens to them, they can be medically supervised. Because here's the reality of the situation, and this is something that I think people just need to come to grips with. You're not going to stop a heroin addict from doing heroin. You can say, you know, you're feeding their addiction or whatever, but if a heroin addict wants to get high, he's going to do that. And providing them with the means to do so without killing themselves, I think it's a humane thing to do, and I think it's a responsible thing to do. With all that being said, is this a perfect solution? No, I don't think it is. I don't know if there is a perfect solution for the opioid crisis, and especially in some of the cities in the Northeast and, you know, some of the drug problems in the Midwest as well. But I think that the data shows that injection sites, needle exchange programs, and an open dialogue and conversation about the realities of addiction and the ugly parts too. Talk about the ugly parts. You have to talk about it because they're real, and if you don't talk about it, then what's going to happen? Hep C is going to continue to spread. HIV is going to continue to spread. It's going to be a whole lot of health problems, and there's going to be a whole lot of overdoses. And those overdoses, there's enough of them that they really do take a tax on local economies, because you have to continuously send local responders to help out with this. Ambulances are not cheap. This is all stuff that can be avoided by simply preventing the overdose in the first place. I have to be careful not to really chime my opinion in on this, because the beautiful thing about Sober Nation is how it's like an open forum. It's an open domain, and I want to hear everybody else's opinion. I want to know what you guys feel about safe injection sites. I certainly have my own viewpoints about it, and I'm going to share them to an extent, but I'm not saying that just because I am, kind of publicly supporting safe injection sites means that I'm 100% this is the answer. I think that potentially this could be a thing that maybe might lead to a thing that could maybe lead to a thing which will be the answer, but we have to do something, because there's a few things that aren't working, right? Sending people to prison for low-level drug charges is not working. It's not working at all. Sending people in and out of treatment centers has some success. I'm an advocate of treatment. I think treatment's important, but I think there's a tipping point where certain people just go in and out so many times, and you got to think to yourself, okay, we need to try something different. So as a treatment advocate, I think it's important to have other options as well. And so aside from this, what other resources can you give to people, especially people that are living in Kensington and lower income areas of Philadelphia that don't necessarily have the best access to healthcare? I think this is really your next best option. So let me chime down here in this article a little bit further. We took a really big first step, said Jose Benitez, Executive Director of Prevention Point Philadelphia, a large nonprofit needle exchange. I was just talking about needle exchange programs. The data doesn't lie with that. Needle exchanges work. They keep people from dying, and they keep deadly blood-related disease from spreading. I know there's a word for that. I blanked on it, sorry. It's early to talk about our involvement at this particular point. As the city official said, there's a lot to consider. As a safe, supervised site wouldn't just be about a spot to inject. Farley stressed, but also somewhere people could connect with other services and treatment. So this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? There needs to be some kind of entry point of communication, because just yelling out to everybody that they shouldn't do drugs is a fucking stupid idea. It's not working. So if you give people a place to use safely, if you give them somewhere where they can talk about their drug problem, and they can talk openly without the fear of getting arrested, without the fear of, being tackled or judged by their family members, which also happens. I know that definitely happens. Then this could be a good entry point into treatment services, which is ideally the ultimate goal, right? The notion of letting a private, so here's some opposition, which I think is also really important to talk about. Some opposition, blah, blah, blah. For one, Councilwoman Maria D. Oh, man. For anybody that's Spanish watching this, I'm going to butcher this, and I'm sorry. Quinones Sanchez. Maria D. Quinones Sanchez, who has voiced opposition to a safe injection site in her district. One at the heart of the crisis, is wary of the city's plan. This notion of letting a private developer or a private person come tell us how this could be done, we're not paying for it. We'll do wraparound services, so much of that is just up in the air. So why make an announcement with no answers? I see what she's saying there. There's no there's nothing like really set in stone. There's nothing being done. So why make a big announcement about it? However, one thing I do not agree with is just like putting your fist down and saying we're not paying for it, because you are paying for it. You're already paying for it. Who knows how much money drug addiction and treatment services and just the healthcare services cost on the national economy, local economies, city economies, like home economies. It's a lot of money. Like, you're paying for it. I'd be interested to find that out. If anybody's watching this, if you could, well, there's people watching it obviously, but if anybody has like an article or some data about the effect that addiction has had on the U.S. economy over the last like 10 years, I think that'd be really interesting. I think we should do a piece on that. All right, so in closing, after all this, it should come as no surprise that the timeline is really unclear too. Rollout will take months at least, leaders have said. Though if it were up to Krasner, he was the guy at the beginning of the article who I sourced, one would have opened years ago. And this is a final quote. "My biggest concern moving forward with harm reduction is that government takes forever," he said. "When we have 3 or 4 people dying every day, nobody can afford to wait." I think it's probably more than that, really. From what my dad tells me and the amount of overdoses that he treats, I think more than 3 a lot of people are dying. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. It's interesting, you know? It reminds me of, I don't know how many of you guys have seen the show The Wire. Greatest show ever put on television. We can stop the debate right there because it's not really a debate. But in one of the seasons, there was an experiment where basically, I think they called it the safe zone or something, where the Baltimore police commissioner made basically everything legal within like a really small confine of the city. And it was amazing because the city thought that he was the most amazing police commissioner ever, that he was like really interacting with the community. Things got safer everywhere. The entire community got safer. And in this one little spot where you could do anything you wanted, people were dying, but they just kept all the needle exchange programs there. And it worked. It was an experiment that, I mean, guys, I know it's a TV show, but the experiment on the TV show worked. And I thought it was like really thought-provoking and really introspective, because isn't that really how humanity works, right? Like, everyone has to get their ugliness out in one way or another. So if you can provide resources at a particular spot where people can be safe and they know that they can do what they need to do without fear of judgment or without fear of legal repercussions, then the community as a whole is going to benefit. And hopefully within that one safe zone, you can provide access to treatment and other resources to the people who are suffering. Let me know if I missed anything. All right. I think I'm done for the day. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going to go home. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for being a part of Sober Nation and providing me and all the people around you with hope and care, and means a lot to me. Talk to you guys later. If you need me, leave a message me on Facebook. We'll talk. See ya.